What is outrage culture? It's the well-endowed man at the orgy who stands out and embarrasses the rest of us. It's the last crumb on your manhole that 7 wipes still couldn't get rid of. It's the plug you stand on barefooted when you go for a midnight lash. It's all these horrible things and more. Me? I blame the internet. Sure, it's done a great many fantastic things since it was invented, but there's one thing it's done better than anything else ever invented, and that's bringing people together, which on paper sounds great, until you remember that a lot of people in this crazy world are panic-riddled idiots. And when you give people like that a platform and a voice, there's only one way they're going to use it. Be like giving a sheep a microphone and getting surprised when all it says is bah. And when a sheep can bawl loud enough, it'll eventually draw in more curious sheep who'll join in, until you're left with a huge gathering of sheep who somehow got the notion that because they have the numbers and they can all bah in unison, they now have the authority to dictate how the farmers run. So what particular flock of sheep shall I be devouring today? Well, you read the title, those tasty morsels in the cultural appropriation group.
Oh, what a huge logic boner you've got there, Ducky.
All the better to fuck you with.
Turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so.
So what is cultural appropriation? Essentially, cultural appropriation is a fancy way for someone to accuse you of being racist on very flimsy evidence. Basically, according to the people who apparently know better, if you do, say, eat, write, or enjoy anything that is not of your own culture, black, white, Asian, American, European, and so on, you're a dirty racist bastard who has taken part in the despicable act of cultural appropriation. Do you enjoy Chinese food with chopsticks? You disgust me. Do you wear dreadlocks in your hair? Yeah, I bet you do, and I bet you drop a few N-bombs for a laugh while you're doing it. Do you speak more than one language? Amargally. That is essentially what is classed as cultural appropriation. Anything that's not originally from your culture, doesn't matter how respectfully you go about it or how oblivious to it you are. Now, people who call out cultural appropriation like to use the caveat that it's only cultural appropriation when a dominant culture takes or adapts things from a minority culture. But I'm going to dismiss that because that's a completely stupid fucking concept in this day and age. Now, if you're still unclear on what it is after that, I don't blame you because it couldn't be more intentionally vague. But here's a few real life examples of people who've had a problem with it. If you want to wear clothes inspired by a different culture like a prom dress or a child that would like to dress up as a Disney princess, that's cultural appropriation. If you make a tasty Jamaican style dish as a chef and you call it Jamaican jerk rice, that's cultural appropriation. If you're white, practice yoga and wear a bindi, whatever the fuck that is, you guessed it, that's cultural appropriation. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Now, to be fair, your first time seeing this in the news, it's pretty funny. You laugh and say, this is so stupid, nobody will possibly support this. But you couldn't be more wrong. Once they get attention, they get a following and start gathering steam. Now, you might ask, how does such a stupid idea actually get such power? It does because you see, people these days, despite appearances, are not concerned about offending people. Most people couldn't give less of a shit about these stories, but they'll support them. Why? Because everybody is watching everyone, and if you don't support a thing that on the surface paints itself as an anti-racism movement, then you'll be accused of being a racist and a mob will turn on you. It's not about the cause, it's about how you appear in public. Basically, it's hard to look like the bad guy when you join a cause that's calling out supposed racists, but it's very easy to be painted as the villain when you take the opposing side and tell them that they missed the point so hard they've accidentally taken down a plane.
And the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie.
So cultural appropriation is all about stopping people from different cultures adapting things from outside their culture. Music, fashion, ways of doing things, etc. But virtually every culture in existence is already a bastard child of other cultures. Just take some of the best cultural traditions. Braiding hair on black people. Sure, it's probably best known for black culture these days, but 5,000 years ago this was found in many cultures. Of course Africa, but it was also common for Asians, New Americans, Egyptians and Europeans to sport the look. What about eating culturally strong foods like croissants or sushi? Same story there. The French adopted the croissant from Austria and Japan got the idea for sushi from China. What about clothing? Take something like Scotland's kilts. Believe it or not, the kilt originates in Ireland and the word kilt is actually Danish. The point I'm getting at is almost everything is a blend from different cultures. We've been on this planet for 200,000 years, so it's crazy to me that people think that cultures have never blended or exchanged anything. But that's the thing. They did. And it's called cultural exchange, not cultural appropriation. See, like their daddy's condoms, their argument is weak and full of holes. I could talk about how most people who cry out cultural appropriation are not even from the culture that's apparently been appropriated. I could talk about how laughable cultural appropriation has become and by proxy weakens and draws the eyes away from actual hate-filled racist acts that go on in the world. Or I could just talk about how ridiculous it is that these people think they are some sort of authority to be listened to and taken seriously on the subject when in reality they don't know anything more about racism than I do about medieval Latin. But the takeaway I want to leave you with is this. There is nothing wrong with it. We're all clever enough to tell the difference between cornrows and blackface. And since when is liking something from another culture racist? Is that not the complete opposite to what racism is? And how do you even enforce that? If we stripped away all external cultures from the same cunts who are shouting that's cultural appropriation, they'd be living in a ditch eating toenail clippings and wiping their arse with their hand. But instead they're sitting on Twitter trying to rustle up a mob to agree with them so they don't have to face the reality of how fucking worthless their life is. And that's all it is. A small group of sad bastards so fucking dense they can't tell the difference between somebody wearing an Asian dress and somebody with a lampshade on their head going ching chong Willy Wong. Because apparently they're the same fucking thing. Right, that's all I can say about that. Well, it's not. I could easily do another 40 minutes, but I think I've stroked my ego long enough. If you share my opinion on this, hit that subscribe button because this is going to be a part of a series I'm currently working on called Outrage Culture, so there's going to be plenty more where that came from. And if you don't share my opinion and you think cultural appropriation is actually something to be upset over, then I'd like you to get the fuck off my video, find the tallest bridge you can, attach the back of your underwear to it and jump. And while falling, take comfort in knowing that we're all happy either way, whether or not they save you. Real quick, I just want to thank you guys for sharing around the last episode of my Outrage Culture video. I did ask you at the end of it, but I honestly didn't think people would bother. But like always, you lyle fuckers never cease to amaze me with your support. And the video did really well. It even hit recommended for a short period. So I can't thank you lads and ladies enough. Also, shout out to my Patreon supporters, or the Patri Army as I'm lovingly calling them. I can't sing their praises high enough. They really help out the channel, especially when tackling kind of less YouTube friendly topics like this. You guys are fucking legends. And if you want to become a legend in the Patri Army, I have a link in the description below. So I want to hear your opinions on outrage culture. Comment below, let me know. Hit that like button, straddle that subscribe bar, and I will catch you lads and ladies in the next one.